Freestyle.
Good morning, everybody. How are you? This is V. I'm here with my friend CJ. How are you, CJ?
I ain't perfecto.
Very good. He's the tamale of terror, and I am the ape who doesn't like grapes. I don't know. I actually do like grapes. I don't know. It's one of those Fridays, CJ. It's one of those Fridays.
It is Friday, bro. It's Friday.
Friday, bro. It's Friday. We survived the week. There was no Malarkey, CJ, this week. No Malarkey. Oh, my God. There was no... See, you know I got to do this, right? I'm sorry, but I have to do this. You know what's coming. Right? You know what's coming. Here we go. You ready, Siege?
I'm ready to do it. Make it happen.
And by the way, you know I got hairy legs that turn turn blonde in the sun. And the kids used to come up and reach in the pool and rub my leg down so it was straight, and then watch the hair come back up again. They look at it. So I learned about roaches. I learned about kids jumping on my lap. And I've loved kids jumping on my lap.
That never gets old, bro. For some reason, Siege, it never gets old.
Here, jump on my lap and rub my hair legs.
Because when a grown man goes to a pool, he wants nothing more than little children coming up and rubbing his hairy legs.
Probably explains the entire time while he's sitting in the kiddie pool at the community pool.
Makes sense. Makes plenty of sense, Siege. Makes plenty of sense, brother. But anyway, folks, check us out, roguenews.com. Follow us on Twitter at RealRogueNews. And if you haven't done so already, go to the best edibles that you can possibly eat and consume. Oh, so delicious. Oh, so nutritious. MyCBDEdibles.com. MyCBDEdibles.com. And if you're ready to join the front lines of the warfare and want to know the truth, the reality of all the things, go check out the podcast over at the Patreon. I will be on there today. Just been trying to gather as much intel and information as much as possible. So go there over at the Patreon and join. With that being said, Siege, what's crack-a-lackin', sir?
Hey, doing great, man. Doing great. Good week. Went to the gym this morning. Had a good workout. I'm feeling it, man. It's December 6th.
Nice.
So we got a few days before 2020 rolls in. But gosh, it's just been a fast and frantic year. But no, I'm pumped up. I'm excited, man. How about you? How was your week?
Week is great. I'm heading out to the Catskills, CJ. I'm gonna do some skiing, even though I don't know how to ski. I'm gonna do some snowboarding, even though I don't know how to do that. But it's gonna be eventful, Siege. It's gonna be eventful, nonetheless.
Yeah, I got my wife's birthday this weekend, so it's an ordeal because my wife's an only child, so therefore she likes to celebrate like the entire month. So we started out last night. We actually went to dinner last night to kick off her what she calls her birthday weekend. So
her birthday month. Oh man, I know what you mean, brother. I know what you mean.
But we're gonna go to this place. It's a next time you're in town, I'll take you. It's called Eddie Merlot's. I'm not sure if you have one there on the East Coast, and I know they have several. But I tell you what, they specialize in just really their entire beef style. Oh, well, their wines, and it's a great atmosphere.
You say beef? Did you say beef?
I said beef.
I love beef. Nice, like a steakhouse, bro.
Yeah, it's a great place. Yeah, so we're gonna.
I'm still getting over that Mexican joint you took me to. Oh my god,
yeah.
I still daydream about that. What is it, Aquarios?
Los Orios.
Oh my god.
Yeah, there's actually only I think 4 of them in the United States. There's 3 in California. No, there's 5 total. 3 in California, 1 in Vegas, and then crazy enough, the other one's in Carmel, Indiana. And the crazy story, I was asking them because whenever they first opened, the actual owners were there. And it's a great story around his background and when he came to the United States and how he started and now where he is. And so I'm like, okay, I'm looking at this history. There's California and then Las Vegas. I'm like, why Carmel, Indiana? And then that's when he was sharing with me that one of his partners is one of the part owners or former owner of the Indianapolis Pacers. And so he was in town visiting, and it's a huge development. It's a great area. And he told him, hey, I would like for you to put one here too. And he said, okay, we will put one here then. Yeah, but it's a great place, and I haven't had lunch, and I'm getting starved.
Dude, yeah, I'm getting started. I got a really good, authentic Mexican joint near where I mean, it's not Los Orios, man. I mean, Los Orios, folks. If you're ever in Carmel, Indiana, or if you're in Indianapolis, you want to take in the Indy 500, and after you're done watching 3 hours of cars making left turns all day, and you're really hungry, get over to Los Orios.
Fun of the 500, V? Are you making fun of the Indy 500?
No, I shouldn't do that. I like Indy. Indy's cool.
Penske
circle track racing
just bought it. Penske just bought the 500, everything, the land, the race, everything. Yeah.
Hey, what's those guys that we used to deal with in Indiana, the racing team? What's those guys? Force.
Yeah, that was. Gosh, any other day you asked me, I would have easily remembered. But yeah,
Stefan.
Yeah, Stefan, and then the other team that's based here, he does more commentary now. But we need to go back and talk with them, catch up with them.
Absolutely, man, 1,000%. You know what I'm saying? So absolutely. But so Penske bought everything, huh?
Yeah, they did. They it used to be owned by
a huge automotive force, man.
Well, yeah, I mean, massive. I mean, it's just interesting to see if any changes are planned. They did do some Formula One racing out there. They did the motorcycle thing. They did the Red Bull aerial thing. Have you ever seen any of those? Those crazy.
Oh, the air races is insane.
Yeah.
It's insane. It's insane. That's a whole nother level of speed, brother.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's another level of fun and danger. Oh,
yeah. So I got that going on, and then next week I'm venturing out to MJ BizCon. It's the largest convention of cannabis enthusiasts. That's going to be.
What do they call it? MJ? Is that named after Michael Jackson?
MJ marijuana.
Oh, Mary Jane. Got it. Makes sense.
Yeah. So I'll be out there for a few days and turn around.
Listen, just go and get high in your own supply.
Don't get high on my own supply. But there's a couple great events. There's the Tuesday. One of the events is the National Women of Cannabis, and so it's kind of a celebration of the women aspect of. And there's several CEOs and some really cool startups. And then it goes right into the actual MJ BizCon, and so it's 3 days, and then Thursday, V. And so I'm kind of excited about this. I was able to grab one of the podcast booth spots. So they have 5 spots and, very demanding. So I will have it for like an hour and a half, 2 hours. So if anyone's listening that's going to be in Vegas and you have a program that you're starting up in the industry or something that you're currently or your ideas, I'll put the details out and would love to chat.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And, I'm excited, dude. That's really good. I have nothing else going on. That's it. All right, broadcast over, folks.
It's been a great show. Everyone enjoy your weekend.
Can you imagine that, dude? Can you imagine that?
Oh, anyway.
See, the jobs report is out. You want to talk about that?
The jobs report, yeah. I mean, come on. It's just. Yes, ultimate, all year low, but the indicators and where it tracks. There was another report that came out, V, that said that like 50% of the jobs that are out there currently are below like the level line of income. And I see it everywhere here. I'm not sure what our listeners or you see, V, but I see massive amount of low employment in some of the fast food restaurants, some of those jobs that I think that they've changed the mentality of what income should be. So therefore there's the mentality that, hey, you know what, if I go work at McDonald's or I'm an entry-level job at Mike's Car Wash or anything, then I need to be making $20 an hour, something of that nature. But I think in part we're cycling through that data where people have just completely left the job marketplace, that they've given up even trying to even look anymore. And unfortunately, the data that's reported doesn't reflect that people just have entirely left the workspace. So it's going to show this massive amount. It's going to show this low employment. But not that I have my pulse on everything, but I just know that in terms of jobs and demands, where a lot of the top paying jobs in some of the industry and the changes that have taken place, it's a competitive job market, and the salaries that people used to ask for, years ago, it's difficult to do that because companies are saying, you know what, why should I pay someone that has 5 years experience double, triple the amount that this person coming out of college when I can give them a lower paying job or a lower salary to come in and effectively do the same thing. So I don't know. I'm not sure what you're seeing in New York, but seeing that. And then the other thing that I'm seeing as well is that like some of these businesses are like promoting like really young people and then paying them dirt pay because they think that it's a salary. So I've heard a couple of stories. Well, yeah, they just got promoted to general manager of this restaurant and everything. I'm like, oh, they did. And how old are they? They're like 20 years of age. I'm like, oh, wow, that's quite a bit of responsibility. And how much did they pay them to do that job? And then you find out that they're like paying them just like, just peanuts basically. So it's interesting. It is what it is. But I don't know. I don't give any of these government statistics anymore that they put out any type of a status of merit of being accurate of what's truly happening.
If you believe the official job numbers, then I have a 29,000 point Dow to sell you as a real and legit indicator of economic well-being. We are all living under the phantom wealth effect, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yesterday, Elon Musk, Mr. Cybertruck. Did you order your Cybertruck, CJ? Did you do that yet?
I did not. I did not order a Cybertruck.
Oh, okay.
But supposedly they have like what 20,000 pre-orders already.
So they have like 256,000 orders. 256,000 orders of the Cybertruck, and it's guess how much it costs to have an order of a Cybertruck. Guess how much it costs?
Usually, what, $5 or $10 down?
Yeah, usually, but we're talking about the cash strap.
He wants 20.
We're talking about the
down.
new kind of Tesla, the type of Tesla, CJ, the type of Tesla that is running out of tricks.
So
$100, bro.
How much?
$100.
$100. Oh dear Lord!
So, and it's refundable.
Oh gosh!
Talk about a stock pump and dump scheme, dude. It's pure vaporware.
Extreme, right? And that's what we've been led to. I mean, it's crazy. Trying to put any valuation on anything that's out there anymore, right? I mean, with the stock buybacks and the Fed, I mean, who knows what these companies are trending and what's truly happening in the market. I mean, I don't know how GE is still out there with all the difficulties that they've been through.
Oh, dude, they're on the verge. They're on the verge. And look, I'll talk about the whole phantom wealth effect, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you do a stunt with vaporware on one of the most ugliest things I've ever seen. And that is the Cybertruck, and you got 250,000 reservations, right? These are all basically refundable $100 deposits, all of them, right? And so you do this to pump up your stocks. Why? Because that's the only thing to keep the whole entire scheme going for yourself, and the only way for you to extract any sort of real wealth out of anywhere. So when Elon was dragged before the court the other day, and they were asking him, about if he has money to pay restitution for calling this guy a pedo, that he should be sodomized with a submarine or something like that. And of course, Elon was joking, but that costed him some money here, right? And Elon went forward and said, "Look, I don't have that kind of cash." Okay, and they admitted, so because they're paper billionaires.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you got to understand, folks. We are all. I mean, could you imagine? Can you imagine a oh my God, can you imagine a society? People look at North Korea, right? They're like, oh my God, North Korea is a totalitarian state, and they are, rigorously controlled. And I mean, people feigning crying when the Kim Jong-il, the father of Kim Jong-un, when he died, they were crying in tears. They were all faking it, because if they don't fake it, they're gonna get killed.
Right.
So they'll get into this mass hysteria, right? So us is the exact opposite, Siege. We are all under this phantom wealth effect, okay? And we literally are thinking that this is reality. What do I mean by that? We have companies, Siege, in Wall Street right now, where we're in because of the stock valuations. Companies that make nothing, that lose money hand over fist, year after year, month after month, week after week. Tesla, Amazon, Facebook, Netflix. I mean, they make no money. They make no money, right?
Right.
And they lose money hand over fist. And we have we have for the first time in any sort of economic history. And folks, I've said this before. I have 900, just only 900 years of economic data under my fingertips. Now, we are in an age, CJ, where there's prosperity without profits. Okay, we're in this delusion. So we literally think guys like Elon Musk is worth $20 billion. We literally kid ourselves into thinking that Jeff Bezos, who looks like a human penis, okay, is Jeff Bezos probably? Did you hear the Jeffrey Epstein? I got to bring this up just to drive this point home. Okay, I'm going to bring this up. Okay,
Go for it.
Bring this up. Jeffrey Epstein egg penis. Okay. There you go. Bear with me, folks. Bear with me.
I hate to see your Google ads after you type that in there.
This is Jeffrey Epstein.
Truth and nothing but the truth to help you guide.
Yes, I did.
That's Jeff.
Could you please give us your name? Jeffrey Epstein.
Is it true, sir, that you have what's been described as an egg-shaped penis?
And folks, the name of his egg-shaped penis is Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos, okay, is Jeffrey Epstein's egg-shaped penis walking around, okay? And people think that this clown is worth $170 billion because he owns a 15% or an 11% share of a company that loses money year over year, hammer fist, and has never made money. Okay, they want you to think the egg-shaped penis named Jeff Bezos is a billionaire. So we are literally living in fantasy land. The real physical economy is dying a death of 1,000 cuts because the real things that need to get done can't get done. Why? Because look at our politicians. Look at them. You want to talk about gridlock? Gridlock is you can't even define it as gridlock. You can only define it in 2 words. It's an absolute shit show. Okay, it's an absolute shit show. So a real physical economy can't get done because the man who is president, who should be in charge, right, where the buck stops with him, so to speak, is being prevented from creating any sort of real shovel-ready physical economy generating, stimulating jobs. And because of that, all these so-called jobs, of course November always has a great jobs number. Why? Everybody's holiday hiring. If you're not holiday firing and replacing the snot-nosed 16-year-old with a robot, you're going to be holiday hiring temp workers. So it's going to be very high. Folks, the underlying thing, this was so underlying and crazy. At some point, the phantom imaginary economy, at some point, okay, the perception fades away and the reality begins to sink in.
Mm-hmm.
And that reality is that we are at 240, damn near 300% debt to GDP when you start to count the derivatives, when you start to count what is being held by our institutions as toxic derivative debt that has been refashioned and festooned as a net positive asset. Never before. CJ, if you and I were to do that, we'll be thrown in jail. But when Wall Street does it, it's okay. Why? Because you got to keep the phantom economy going, bro.
Oh, it's all they do, right? I mean, time and time and time again. And you nailed it. And looking at the shit show of a government that we have at the federal level, and what gets done? Absolutely nothing except for more debt, spend more money, and here's another committee, here's everything else like that. And the real economy, when you see it, V, it's just complete opposite of anything that the media, wants you to believe. And what's crazy about it is that when you take a look at, some of the, you look at the statistics, right, where you see like homelessness, and you take a look at the downturn that's occurring, but you have this polar opposite of saying, oh, you know what, we are at record low point. We look at the stock market of how it's doing so well. You have IPOs that are coming out and saying, yeah, this stock initially value is going to be $60 per share, and then it happens and it's like $15. I mean, it's just a complete. It's like the Matrix. It's like we've entered into a different world, and either you're plugged into the system and you're happily idly going by with it with your happy little life, or you're outside of the Matrix and you're pushing back against us and saying, look up, look at what's really really taking place, what's really happening, where people are paycheck to paycheck, or even worse yet, are borrowing off of their credit cards to making ends meet. That's where we've landed. And when I see this idea around when I see news, it's constantly coming out, this impeachment, everything, I feel like it's like a made for TV reality show. We have a reality show type federal government that's trying to give this perception on the screen, and it just makes me wonder, V, if it's not by design to keep people focused on, look here, but don't look at all these other things that are taking place and that are happening. And the only thing that I can attribute to or think about and wondering is that, is there any type of a continued plan or escalation for intervention, or for some type of a military action with Iran? I know a lot of people say no, it's not going to happen because the superiority of Russia and China and technology and everything. But some of these people, some of these globalists and their agenda, they're hell-bent on trying to get this to take place. And I've said it before, love or hate Donald Trump, I firmly believe that he is the only one standing against this type of war, because I think that he understands. I think he doesn't want any troops to be killed, and he does believe that the responsibility of that. And I think that these people thought that they had him. I think when they did this whole fake thing with, there's an oil tanker that was seized and the bombing and everything, I think they had a plan to say, we're going to go ahead and do this war. And then when he didn't, it's like when all this escalation took place, and I really think you have this behind the scenes effort to intimidate and continue trying to push him into this escalation, and he's saying no, and therefore like, okay, well, you won't do the war we thought that you were going to, so now we have to find someone that will sign off on this word. But just thank God that like a George W. Bush character wasn't at the office during this time period, because I think things would be significantly different, V.
Now, CJ, I said this. I said I need a visor, and we're going to smoke them out. We're going to bring them justice. Now, when I was president, CJ, I was with Laura, and we're talking about Saddam Hussein and the things that happened in Iraq. And now, every day, CJ, I dream about bombing Iran. That's why I said, my friend, let me just paint this picture of a dog and get back to you. Now, while all this is happening, while we're on this As the World Turns soap opera called The Impeachment. Oh, God. Israel. Okay. Israel played a role in President Donald Trump's reported plans to send 14,000 troops to the Middle East. What? Multiple reports citing unnamed officials. Now, take this with a grain of salt. This is from the Jerusalem Post. Trump is planning to deploy troops to counter increased Iranian adventurism. What the is? CJ, what is Iranian adventurism? Is that like they're opening up a theme park near the Golan Heights and the Israelis don't like it?
Well, they're taking over, V, everywhere. Haven't you seen it? I mean, I think that the Iranians, they took over Mexico. I think they're in Cuba now. I mean, I do not sleep at night worrying about the Iranians, V. I can't
step outside without smelling shawarma. They've taken over everywhere. On Wednesday, the Journal reported that the increase came in part of the behest of Netanyahu. I I'm just sick of reading this. Why is it we have Israel dictating our foreign policy in the Middle East? Why is that? I know. Not a very popular thing to say, CJ. Not a very popular thing. You could say, go ahead, CJ. You're of Hispanic descent. You have that card. You have that privilege.
Money. What? Money. That no. I think the it's just the lobbying, and they control both sides of the government, and I think in part that's what it's all about. But it's just crazy to hey, before we go any forward, there's a great movie you need to watch, because you were talking about George W. Bush, and it details out, like, did you know that, like, when they were pushing this whole weapons of mass destruction, you remember that who was the Secretary of State at the time, that Colin Powell, whenever he went to the UN?
No, Secretary of State?
Or no, he wasn't. Yeah, or no, what was his title?
No, he was Secretary of State. Yeah.
So anyway, so there's actually a great movie that came out, and I can't remember the name of it, but it details out, like, when they went to go vote for this intervention in Iraq, this war, that the CIA actually contacted the UK intelligence agency, and there were wires, and there's a whistleblower who shared that how they got the other Security Council members to vote in favor of this is that they actually blackmailed them. So they had surveillance on them and blackmailed them and said, "Listen, we know what you're doing behind the scenes. We're gonna have to do this and this." It's a great story, and I'd never heard that before.
What the hell is this movie called?
Before the end of the broadcast, I'll look it up. But it's a great movie about this one person that said, "Look, the whole war effort and narrative is based upon a lie, and not only about a lie, but then when they were worried about not getting the vote for the war, they actually blackmailed the Security Council members in voting in favor of it." It's a true story. Yep.
Wow.
But anyway, getting back to the Israeli influence, it's kind of an interesting dynamic. I don't understand what's happening in Israel. I know that they don't have a consensus government right now, whether Netanyahu is in or is he
Nuts
out.
Needs to go, man. Netanyahu hey ho. Netanyahu's got to go. Hey, ho. Netanyahu's got to go. That's what I said. Hold on. Hold on. Now. Michelle and I, when I was in the White House, I told Bibi, "You're going to sign on to this new Iranian deal. I'm going to give them a pallet of cash, and they're going to go ahead and get all the kind of things they need, CJ. That's simple. Hold on." Oh, man. And now Al Jazeera is reporting that, no, the U.S. is not sending 14,000 troops. Nothing surprises me anymore, Siege. You know what I'm saying? It's just, why is our foreign policy so damn jacked up? We have all... I don't think, CJ, this was terrifying. I don't think that we are celebrating and are vociferous on things that are actually tangible. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
There's really nothing tangible for all the euphoria. I'm feeling good. Like, we got some pedos being arrested. But I don't want to see George, whatever his name was, who was working for Mueller, who's a contributor to the Hillary campaign. I don't want to just see him arrested, CJ. I want to see Hillary in jail. I want to see Comey locked up. I want to see it, man. I want to see it in my lifetime that these people go down, because that's going to be the greatest morale booster for this republic, man. I've been saying it for some time. If we're in here, if we're going into the second term of Donald Trump, and we're still talking impeachment, we're still talking about arrests, I mean, come on.
Okay, so Official Secrets is the name of the movie. Official Secrets, and the whistleblower was Catherine Gunn. And like I said, it's a great story, and to see that happening and how they're able to influence. Now, what's an interesting dynamic is that I believe that there was a UN Security Council resolution just 2 or 3 days ago, that actually mandated for Israel to vacate the Syria's Golan Heights.
Mm-hmm.
So all this escalation and things that are taking place, and I think in part that's why they use these fake stories like this to kind of influence and change to get the administration, for example, when they release that, this thousands of troops are going and everything else like that, it puts the system in place to say, okay, well, if this is truly happening, then what else is going on there? And I know darn well, with all this escalation that's happening with these UN resolutions, with the efforts, I mean, they're pissed off that they did not accomplish their mission in Syria. And so now they're like, okay, well, what's the next step? If we're not going to be able to overtake Syria, what's the next stage? Then I think all eyes are on Iran. And I think that's in part why this is happening, this bogus propaganda to try to strong arm the administration into supporting, that war. Probably even some of the reasons why a lot of the people have left. Now, to me, the $1 million question is Pompeo. And what is he doing behind the scenes? I don't trust the guy one bit. I don't know why he's even in a position. But his ties and his background in regards to the CIA that conduct a lot of these wars and these covert things that are happening. So if that's a play, if their play was to regime change in Iraq because the previous government did not want or support an escalation with Iran. They wanted U.S. troops out of Iraq, and the Saudis are always kept out of harm's way, right? The Saudis are always like, when there's an intervention, they're like, well, we want you to wage a war, but don't do it from Saudi territory because we don't want the risk of anything coming into our territory. So I really think the entire plan was to leverage and use Iraq as a base to strategize, and that's why we're seeing the regime change there in Iraq happen. Is that they're hoping they can put in place a U.S. puppet who will support that escalation to do military buildup in Iraq with all eyes on Iran. That's just speculation on my part, but I think you can see a lot of the writing on the wall of things that are leaning towards, and I think that, and maybe that's why they're doing this whole impeachment thing, and maybe it's to keep all of us distracted on that, while in the meantime that they're strategizing and they're spending these next few months planning out what that escalation potentially could look like with Iran.
Hey, you know what? Harley's going to join us in like a few minutes, so we might as well stay on air. I mean, I'll stay on air. If you got to drop, you can drop, but I'll stay on air. Let's just keep going.
And I know, we can bring Harley. I know Harley's very optimistic, and so am I. I'm never.
You're so pessimistic. I'm so depressed now.
No, we did. Yeah, we had a discussion yesterday.
Where's my carton of Ben and Jerry's?
And people ask why. They're like, well, all this is happening, and everything else like that. I'm just like, I think people are waking up. I think people are understanding and questioning, a lot of these things. And I don't think that this whole impeachment thing, I don't think it's changing people's minds. Those that were against Trump, they're always going to be like that. But I think a lot of people have realized and are drifting further away, of saying, wait a minute here, you did the whole Russia thing. That didn't work. You've thrown everything at the wall that you could, hoping that something was going to stick, and it hasn't. Why they're thinking this is going to, when they know that they don't have the Senate. They know that probably, when you look at it, majority of Americans don't support this action, and it's just a complete act of desperation. And the Democrats, they don't have any viable candidate to even competitively compete against Trump for 2020. I don't think that they do. V.
Yeah, I think, dude. I think there is one candidate, man.
Uh-oh.
There is one.
Who's that?
I'll tell you right now. There is one. And that candidate, Siege, comes all the way from the mountain of Mordor. She is the war goddess. Yes. The Queen of Darkness herself. The old Gruel horse. You know she's going to jump back in. You know that, Siege.
I don't know.
You know why she's going to jump back in?
What's that?
She's going to jump back in predominantly because of one thing and one thing alone, Siege. And that's this.
And by the way, I got hairy legs that turn turn blonde in the sun. And the kids used to come up and reach in the pool and rub my leg down so it was straight, and then watch the hair come back up again. They look at it. So I learned about roaches. I learned about kids jumping on my lap. And I've loved kids jumping on my lap.
That never gets old. That's why. That's exactly why. Between that and Andrew Yang, putting some cream in men's mouths. Every time that Biden messes up, it's like Hillary comes out and does some sort of interview somewhere. I mean, dude, the other time she was on Howard Stern talking about how she's not a lesbian.
See, I don't even think if you had to ask the majority of Democrats, I don't even think that they want Hillary to run.
Nobody does.
Nobody does, and I don't know if she still has the influence that she once did, like with Wasserman and Schultz.
She does, Siege.
I know she does. She's still trying to figure out what happened 3 years ago.
It was all Russian bots. The Russians. Everybody's a Russian asset now.
Yeah. And what are your thoughts on Bloomberg? How disruptive do you think he's going to be to things?
Why is he even there is beyond me at this stage of the game. Like, why is he there? But see, if the Democrat, if the DNC wasn't so rigged, and it wasn't so damn corrupt, and if it was an actual level playing field, I'll tell you right now, and equal, and if the media wasn't so damn screwed up the way they were screwed up, I would tell you right now, if given a level playing field, okay, on both parties, if given a level playing field, especially in the media, and the media actually did reporting, they just reported facts. They were not trying to influence ideas or influence thoughts here. I will tell you right now, Tulsi Gabbard would give Trump a hell of a run for his money.
Yeah, I mean,
I seriously do on the foreign policy front. Oh yeah.
Well,
she'd lose in the economic side.
At minimum, a cabinet position.
He should at least fire Pompous, that fat beep, out of the Secretary of State position. He's hired Tulsi.
It's always been my argument as to who picks these cabinet level positions. Who is determining that? And
CJ, that would be me. CJ, my name is Jared Kushner, and I'm the one who does all the pickings.
How many people? I mean, how many? It's been, and again, it's been like a revolving door as far as some of those key positions. I mean, we could probably go through a name like was there Tillerson, there was Mattis, there was
Kelly
here. Who?
It was Kelly.
Kelly, Flynn.
Bolton.
Obviously, going to happen to Flynn. I mean, he's been probably one of the strongest advocates of the president. Rand Paul. I think Rand Paul is definitely qualified for a lot more than just a U.S. Senator.
Absolutely. How come Paul's not in the cabinet? How come Tulsi's not in the cabinet? How come you don't have somebody like a Jim Jordan on there, or a Trey Gowdy, or it's like you hate neocons, you hate the form, but you surround yourself with the same madmen that have always been there. What's next, man? They're going to dust off Donald Rumsfeld?
Oh, dear Lord. Well, no, I'm glad you said that, because that brings up a very interesting dynamic in regards to the entire, the deep state and removal of the deep state. And that's the fact that, that William Barr is in place. And I know that our listeners know, but, Barr was also a DOJ head back with Bush, and to me that's part of the change that we started down several years ago, is when the Bush syndicate came in and they started instituting all these things that have taken place, whether it's 9/11, whether it was the arms for drugs, everything that was taking place, the amount of corruption, and to think that who's probably one of the biggest supporters of Hillary Clinton, that's the Bush family. And what did George W. Say at one time? Didn't he refer to her as a sister at one time?
Well,
I have a brand new idea, new world order. Not gonna raise your taxes, not gonna that, I'm not gonna that. I saw Bill. I said, Bill, you're like a son of mine. He's like a son. And that's exactly what George H.W., may he rest in hell, Walker Bush, Poppy, aka the drug runner extraordinaire, aka the guy who ran the op to assassinate Kennedy, that guy called Bill Clinton a son. And we have Harley Schlanger here. Hold on.
Yeah, V.
Harley, how are you, buddy? We got CJ and me here together.
Harley.
CJ.
How are you, sir?
Hey, I was thinking about you just yesterday. I realized I hadn't gotten back to you.
Harley, I'm still listening to all your shows with V and following right along, and it's great to be on air with you.
Yep, we're gonna get all this stuff fixed out, and we're gonna have the producer extraordinaire will have the full control of all things again.
Uh-oh.
Yes.
Uh-oh.
Yes. Things will go back to normal. Things will go back to normal.
Well, it'll be better than normal.
It'll be way better than normal. You got that right, Harley. Yeah. What's new, Harley? We were just talking about no Malarkey. We're talking about hairy legs. We're talking about what else? What are we talking about? We're talking about the jobs report is out. We're talking about the insanity of the impeachment. Jerry Nadler looked like he almost died yesterday. I was hoping that he did. I don't know if they have a defibrillator, implanted into one of his suit jackets that, or maybe a pacemaker that jumpstarts his heart every time he fades out.
Did I send you the article I wrote today? I don't know if I did.
No, I didn't receive today's article. No.
I went through the importance of Pelosi rushing back from the COP25 meeting to give her press conference, because at that meeting, she basically contradicted Trump. Trump pulled the United States out of this last month or 2 months ago. And Pelosi went there and said, no, we're still in it. And so Pelosi is like the rest of the clowns in the House and these diplomats who say they're the real government. Don't listen to Trump.
My God.
And that's the real issue in impeachment, that they're terrified that Trump is going to shift out of their policies. So I think that's the point we should start with.
I mean, is that a violation of the Logan Act? I mean, that's a real violation of the full. I mean, this is almost. It's just as bad as when we had the warmonger himself, John McCain, when he was in the Ukraine right after the Maidan, standing there saying, "America is with you. I am with you."
A lot also. Remember,
what?
You may not remember this because you might be too young, but the paperclip General Al Haig, after Reagan was shot, Haig said, "Don't worry, I'm in charge here."
Yeah. Right after the Hinckley thing, I remember that one.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Anyway, I do have Pelosi's exact quote when she arrived in Madrid. Was after giving a big hug to Greta Thunberg, she said, "By coming here, we want to say to everyone, we're still in." And she was there with a bunch of Democratic greenies.
Sickening, disgusting. I am sick of these enemies of the Republic, Harley. I am fed up.
Yeah.
And I was talking to a buddy of mine, a very successful former Wall Street trader, has a passionate disdain for the government, hates these far leftist lunatics. And he's made a point. He's got a large couple of acres in Montana, and where he just likes to hunt and raise his kids, and he's a real homesteader. And I think he said it best. I think he's like, we're the Cold War has started. You know, I mean, the cold civil war, so to speak.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what it feels like. We're in a cold civil war. We have literally enemies of the Republic, Harley. Enemies of the violating the Logan Act. And where's any sort of justice, Harley? I mean, if this was done 50 years ago, the type of shenanigans that's happening today, these people would be hung. They'd be hanging from lampposts in D.C. They'd be brought before a firing squad.
We wouldn't let them hang with Harley, though.
No, never, no way, no. I'm gonna rename it because Google keeps flagging me every time I put you on. I'm gonna call it Fireside Chats with Mr. Schlanger. That's what I'm gonna call it, and maybe the algorithms will probably get thrown off. We'll see.
Maybe so. Google is flagging it, huh?
Oh yeah. You're on the list, Harley.
Yeah,
you're on the list. Just want to let you know.
Now, are you going to? What is it? Next week, YouTube is going to announce who they're going to kick off.
Yeah, we might be kicked off. CJ, do we have an alternative for when we do get kicked off?
Oh yeah, there's several. So we can get off of YouTube's
live
platform. Yeah, there's several, and I think it is next week that everyone's kind of anticipating what's going to happen.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Did you notice that Sergey Brin and his co-founder at Google decided to take this moment to leave
the company? Yeah.
Google? Yeah.
Well, they gave the reins over to Sundar Pichai. Sundar Pichai is going
That's
to.
Okay. They left with their billions, and now they don't really care what happens.
They don't care. They're like, okay, all right, Sundar, come here and do it.
You can fall on the sword for us.
You can fall on the sword. Sundar Pichai, he's the coolie from Google. He's going to do it.
Yeah.
It's okay. I can call him a coolie because I am of part Indian descent, so it's all right. It's okay. Anyway, Harley, what's shaking, man? What's new?
The other thing that we should discuss, which I thought was interesting, is at the NATO summit and also at the COP25, the Greenie summit.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that they discussed was that the 4 countries that are most out of touch with the demands of the Paris Accord, guess which ones? U.S., Russia, China, and India.
Ah, yes.
The 4 powers.
You want to know something? And these globalists know this. If these 4 countries, the United States, Russia, China, and India, if those 4 countries can come to a partnership and a working agreement to work cooperatively for the better good of this planet, you'd have 1,000 years of peace.
The city of London would sink without global warming.
Yes, exactly right. Those 4 countries are the 4 superpowers that are on this planet. Those 4 countries have massive economies and extremely powerful militaries. They would absolutely bring peace to this world.
I just read the speech by LaRouche back in 1997 where he first put forward this idea of 4 powers. And shortly after that, Primakov, who was the prime minister of Russia, talked about Russia, India, China working together, which evolved into the BRICS. So this idea was put forward by Lin more than 20 years ago. And now we're seeing the reality of it. So anyway, if you want to discuss that, you want to discuss I think we should start with the Pelosi coup.
Let's go with Pelosi and how dare you, Thunberg.
Yeah.
Go for
it.
So what happened? So Pelosi got to COP 20 meeting?
COP 25, I think they call it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, she got there on December 2nd with, I think, about 8 or 10 other Congress critters, all of whom are leading Greenies. And she said, by coming here, we want to say to everyone, we're still in. Now, she said that knowing full well that Trump in mid-October filed the official papers for the U.S. to leave the Paris Climate Accord. He announced we were going to do that long before, but the official filing was in October, and now in November 2020, the U.S. will be out completely. So what does Pelosi say? Oh, no, we're still in. We're in. Ignore the guy in the Oval Office with the orange hair. He doesn't run anything. That's essentially what Pelosi's line was.
Treason.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Now, remember, in his campaign, Trump said the reason he's going to get out of this is he's running to represent the citizens of Pittsburgh, not Paris. Now, what's happening in Paris today? You have a general strike against Macron and the bankers, protesting the cuts in pensions, protesting the green taxes. The yellow vests are joining with the unions, or joining with the police and firemen and pilots and others. You have Paris completely shut down. There were 600,000 people in the streets of Paris yesterday.
Jeez. Yeah, same thing's happening in Germany. They were going to end their coal powered power plants, and that was scrapped. You had the farmers, for as long as my eyes could see, they took their tractors on the street protesting this whole entire thing.
I ran into the tractorcade. I was driving into Berlin the other day when it was happening, and it was totally impressive. They had 2 rows of 2 deep tractors stretching for as far as you could see on either side of the road leading to the Brandenburg Gate. And then in the middle were people. They estimated maybe 30 or 40,000 people, but about 8 to 10,000 tractors. And these are not your old-fashioned little mom and pop tractors. These are big tractors. And you can see why the farmers are angry. We were talking to them, and they were saying, these things don't run on solar energy. They don't run on wind power. They need diesel fuel.
Yeah.
And if you're not going to get it, you're not going to have any food.
Exactly correct. These are all things that greenies, never ever think about. They never think about any of this stuff.
Well, there was a very hilarious column written on Pat Lang's blog, the Semper Tyrannis blog that he has, where someone said his 15-year-old daughter came in from an American public school spouting Greta Thunberg's line and how important it is that we go with the full green agenda. So he said, well, I came up with a plan. Unplug the refrigerator, no heat in your room, no television, no more hamburgers or meat. We're going to go with the full Greta Thunberg policy. And he said within 10 minutes, his daughter came and started begging for the heat.
That's exactly what we should do with these millennials and these young entitled kids that are living in the Western world, who are out there, skipping school and protesting that we should do something because the global temperature might go up 0.1 centigrade, and it could be 0.1 degrees Fahrenheit, and it could absolutely be cataclysmic to the entire planet. We need to do that. Take away their heat. Take away their iPhones. Take away their iPads. Don't let them take Uber anywhere. Let them actually walk or ride a bike. And then,
that's what the guy said also.
Yeah,
I don't know if you remember this, but George Carlin, about 20 years ago, right before he died, was talking about environmentalism. And he said, yeah, it's all these rich people who are sitting in their palatial mansions who are talking about how we should stop letting the poor people have heat while they're sitting there with their toes propped up in front of their special furnaces.
Exactly correct, man. Exactly correct.
But I think, look, the thing about Pelosi that's important is that what she's expressing is the view of the coup plotters, which includes now these 3 morons who are supposedly legal experts, all of whom, by the way, lied. They all lied that they just came around to impeachment recently, when it turns out the witch from Stanford had been speaking against Trump going back 2 years.
Oh, you mean the cat lady from Stanford?
Yeah. And then the Feldman, I think his name, from Harvard, who was the one who said explicitly, oh, no, I was an agnostic on impeachment until the Ukraine thing came up. And then someone pointed out in 2017, he had called for Trump's impeachment. So if Roger Stone is facing 50 years for lying to Congress, what about these bozos? Exactly. And I think this is one of the things that they're afraid of will happen if there's going to be a trial in the Senate, that some of these questions will be brought up and people who tell lies will end up going off to prison. But I bring up the Pelosi thing because she was in Madrid for this COP25 conference, explicitly criticizing and rejecting Trump's leadership, that he's not the president. She represents American policy. Then she comes back and says, we have to act. We have no choice but to act. It's the president who forced this issue. And then she said that it's the proper thing to do. He said, what's at stake is our democracy. The president has left us with no choice but to act. And then she was asked, well, why did you used to be somewhat hesitant about impeachment. Why did you change? And she said, the facts of the Ukraine situation just changed everything. I just wrote an article saying, which facts is she talking about? There was a very beautiful moment when a legitimately angry Matt Gaetz, the congressman from Florida, asked the three people who were saying that Trump should be impeached. He said, do any of you have any evidence in front of you that shows that Trump did something which is impeachable?
Nope.
And this is after they all went on about how, according to the Constitution and the Founding Fathers, that the Founding Fathers introduced impeachment into the Constitution specifically to deal with a problem like what Trump is doing. So Gaetz said, could any of you identify a single issue, a single fact that shows that Trump is impeachable? And the three of them sat there, couldn't say a thing. Now, the same thing happened, as you may remember, when I think it was Nunes or maybe it was Jordan, asked some of these so-called consummate professionals, the diplomats and intelligence people, the Fiona Hills and others, during the Schiff hearings, did any of them ever hear or see Trump say something that was impeachable? And of course, none of them did. It's all gossip, hearsay, second and third hand stories that are made up largely by Adam Schiff.
Correct.
So this is why Trump said yesterday, all right, you're going to impeach me, then do it fast. Let's get this into the Senate so we can have an actual trial.
Yeah,
now,
exactly.
Here's the danger. There are several Democratic senators, including Murphy of Connecticut, who are saying, look, we've got a few Republicans that if they had more backing would support impeachment. Now, I think he's just making that up. Although it may be that Mitt Romney is on the pro-impeachment side. But they don't have 19 Republicans. There's no way they'll get 19 Republicans in the Senate to support impeachment. What they're trying to do is hype up these lies about Ukraine and Russia and Trump to lower Trump's popularity, to lower the polls, so that they can then go to the Republicans and say, see, if you go with him, you're going to lose. Now, the problem is every time Trump goes out on the stump and addresses their base, the crowds are large and wildly enthusiastic, even more so than they were in 2016. So this strategy is not going to work. So what is the intent of the strategy? It's to make a mockery of the United States on the world stage, as Pelosi did by going to COP25 and saying, we're the ones who speak for the US, as all these neocons are when Trump was in London, telling NATO that you're a bunch of freeloaders and you want to confront Russia, but you won't put any money up. And what do they say? Well, Trump doesn't speak for the United States. Trump is off on his own. This is dangerous for our alliances. The same thing they're saying with Ukraine. They're saying we can't play around with Ukraine because Ukraine's on the front lines with Russia. Well, what's President Zelensky, who just won an election with a sweeping mandate in Ukraine, what's he saying? He just got off the phone with Putin a couple of days ago. He said, we're going to work with Putin and we're going to work with Trump and we're going to have an agreement to have peace in eastern Ukraine. Now, who wants that? Putin, the people of Ukraine, and Trump. Who doesn't want peace in Ukraine? All the neocons and neoliberals who are trying to get rid of Trump. So I think it's a very increasingly clear dividing line. And we've just got to make sure that people understand what the real issues are. Because if they do, there's no problem in 2020. The only reason there might be a problem is that some of the Republicans have bug up their butt about Russia and China. And so here you have Trump, just like the COP25, Trump is clear, we're out of it. He's saying about China that he's going to get a deal with Xi Jinping that's going to be great for both countries. And meanwhile, you have the Congress running a regime change operation in Hong Kong through the same networks that carried out the Ukraine coup. Then Trump is talking to Putin to follow through on their Helsinki talk about limiting the spending on nuclear weapons. And they're both optimistic now that something can happen with this. And what do we keep hearing in the Congress? Russia interfered in 2016, and now Trump's inviting China and Ukraine and other countries to interfere. So as long as this line is out there that Russia meddled in the 2016 election, which where did that line come from? British intelligence, GCHQ, and then Christopher Steele, and then Brennan and Clapper and Comey. This is the war party. And I think Trump has to do a better job making this point. But if he's not going to do it, I'll do it. And I think all of your listeners should do it also. Make it clear that the people who are out to get Trump to carry out regime change in the United States are doing it because they're part of the military-industrial complex, which needs and wants war.
Absolutely right, Harley. And that's the thing. And the faster that we get to do away with the military-industrial complex, these backward politicians, Harley, why is it, besides the policy, besides the fact that their policies are under threat, do you think that there's something more? Do you think that there's something bigger behind the scenes that they are terrified that we see such a concerted effort from the politicians as well as the media to focus their hatred and their vitriol on one person and try to this hard and fight this intense just to have him removed?
Well, there is a bigger issue. And of course, you and I have discussed this, and I've written about it extensively. We've covered it on LaRouche Pack. The financial system that they're sitting on top of is collapsing. And they're terrified that Trump, who's demonstrated that on certain issues, he thinks along the lines of LaRouche on the idea of working with Russia, working with China, going for big bargains, breaking with the neoliberal free trade policies, which are really not free trade at all. They're globalist corporate cartels imposing rules on the rest of the world which get rid of national sovereignty. They're terrified that beneath Trump's attacks on Jerome Powell and the Federal Reserve, he's looking at the alternative. And what would that alternative be? Well, I don't know what he's thinking, but the best alternative would be to work with China and Russia, who are orienting heavily towards gold and physical economy, to work with them to establish a new financial system which takes power away from the City of London. And to do it, there are a few quick steps you need to do. One is return to Glass-Steagall banking separation. So you say to the investment banks, and that includes the JP Morgan Chases, the Morgan Stanley, and others, you no longer have a protection from the Federal Reserve because the Fed is going to be put out of business. But more importantly, no more bailouts, because right now, V, as you know, there's a daily bailout on a 24-hour basis through the so-called repo markets.
Correct.
And what's interesting about that, there was an article by, I don't know if you're familiar with Russ and Pam Martin's Wall Street on Parade.
Yes, I am.
They had an excellent article about a week ago where they said, here's what happened. JP Morgan Chase, a bank in Japan, a few others that are the biggest players in the repo markets, suddenly stopped making loans. Now, the repo markets are essentially where corporations, hedge funds, and others who need cash go to get the cash. They deposit some kind of financial paper with the lender. The lender gives them money, and then 24 hours later, they return the money plus interest for their paper back. Now, this was becoming a profitable business because the liquidity was so tight that JP Morgan Chase and others were able to charge 8, 10, 12% interest. And that's when the Fed supposedly got nervous about the pressure to drive up the interest rates. But why did JP Morgan Chase and this Japanese bank that had 10% of the repo market, why did they pull back? Well, what the Martins write about is something called intraday bankruptcy. And this was in a memo they found from the 2008 crisis, where one of the reasons they were able to save the system in 2008 is they were able to use a weekend to put Lehman out of business.
Right.
And they raised the question, what would happen if one of these big lenders, was online for a couple $1 billion with a repo loan, and then defaulted, and then said to JP Morgan Chase or whoever was holding their paper, you deal with it. Well, you would trigger a chain reaction collapse. And so JP Morgan Chase was basically saying, we don't want to get stuck with tens of billions of dollars of bad paper. We've got enough of our own bad paper we've got to back up. And so they turned to the lender of last resort, the Fed, and said, you do it. So the Fed is now pumping 35, 40, 60, 70, $100 billion a day into these markets.
Yep.
Plus, they're no longer just 24-hour return. They're now 14-day and 42-day repo loans.
Jesus.
Plus 60 billion in new quantitative easing, for which the Fed is no longer deleveraging, no longer getting rid of the financial paper they took on after 2008, but they're now taking on $60 billion a month more, and it's probably going to go up.
Yep.
So, and then you have idiots coming out saying the U.S. banking system is healthier than it's ever been. Then why do they need all this money overnight? Now then, in Europe, you've got a big fight developing because it's not just Deutsche Bank. This Japanese bank I mentioned has very strong connection to French banks.
Is it SoftBank or Nomura?
No, it's I have the name here somewhere. It's a bank you probably have never heard of, but it's actually in my article. I don't know if I can find it quickly. Just a second. Well, I can't find it. If someone wants to get it, just send me an email and I'll send it to you. But it's a bank that works closely with BNP Paribas, Crédit Agricole, and the third largest French bank. So they're sharing bad paper to support 10% of the repo markets. The Bank of Japan went to them in early September and said, don't do this. Get out of this. And so all of a sudden, 10% of the loans for the repo market disappeared. Now, the other side of this intraday bankruptcy problem is a report that came out last week from Bank of America Merrill Lynch on zombie corporations. And they said there are 548 medium and large size companies that are essentially zombie corporations, which means they don't make enough earnings in the year to cover the interest on their debt. So they're the ones who are going to the repo market. Now,
you mean to tell me the world's richest man, Jeff Bezos, and his company that makes nothing is possibly going to the repo market?
I don't know about Bezos. I think he's getting enough money from the CIA right now to keep himself in business.
That's true. Yeah.
But you have these obvious problems. Now, the people who are running these financial scams, these swindles, using the bailouts, bail-ins, and so on, are the same people who run the newspapers that are attacking Trump, and the same ones who fund the politicians in both parties who are trying to get rid of Trump. And let me just add one more thing. I neglected to follow this through a minute ago. In Europe, because of Deutsche Bank, because of BNP Paribas, Unicredit of Italy, I think the second largest bank there, just announced 8,000 layoffs and shutting down over 500 branches. What's the deal there? Well, they're trying to establish this European fund, a unified banking system for all of Europe. And in the meantime, they have something called the European Stability Mechanism, which has about $700 billion for bailouts. That's not enough to cover the bailouts. And so a guy named Cottarelli, who's a former executive director of the IMF, said, we've got to get this in place immediately because many of the banks of Europe are going to need the money in the short term. Now, that's why Angela Merkel, who had been, because of German interests, opposing this unified banking, the European-wide banking system, shifted her policy last week and said, now we're for it. And a fascinating thing happened. the Social Democrats in Germany, who are the junior partner of the coalition government with Merkel, had a party election last weekend. And the guy who was favored to win was Scholz, who's the economics minister, who supports all the bad policies of the German government. He lost. The two people who won to replace him were people who oppose the austerity policies, oppose the European-wide banking system, and are talking about lining up with the farmers. So now you have the historically second largest party in Germany breaking with the policies. And if that happens, then Merkel's government will collapse. So we're now in a situation where the Christian Democrats, Merkel's party, are trying to figure out how to survive if they lose their coalition partner. So they're talking about linking up with the Green Party, which would be suicide for Germany. So all this instability plays into what Pelosi and others are trying to do. They're trying to stabilize the United States politically. That is, get rid of the disruptor, Trump, and go back to business as usual, which means bailouts and wars. Now, is that going to be popular for the Democrats in the 2020 election? I don't think so. So they have no choice but to go all out to try and get rid of Trump now. And that's why we're seeing this rush to the impeachment.
Yep, absolutely. Very well said. Harley, thank you so much for being on with us, man, and sharing all this great information. CJ and I can't thank you enough. Folks, if you click the thumbs up button, hit that notification bell so you will be alerted the next time we have a program on and Harley is on to share this information with you. And Harley, could you share with the audience where they can find you and what's your websites?
Well, I have, as you know, I write an article almost every week. And my last two articles, one was on the Ukraine impeachment coup, and the other was on this financial manipulation around the repo markets. And I'll make the links available to anyone who sends me an email to my personal email, which is harleysch@gmail.com. That's harleysch@gmail.com. And just say you heard it on the program with V, and I'll be happy to send it off to you, send you the link, and you can sign up if you want. And that way you can be in touch with what I'm saying and doing on a regular basis.
Absolutely. And with that being said, folks, we are over and out. CJ, myself, and Harley, we are over and out. So enjoy your weekends, everyone. Cheers.